And so they think about their audience as being everyone, being citizens in a democracy. But in fact, when you say, well, who's really reading you? Well, who's really reading you is the politicians, because they want to know if they've been called out or they're... So I'm very interested in journalism innovation and how journalists change. I've kind of been looking at that for a long time. And I've lately become interested in entrepreneurial journalism, or journalism that's more about changing the way things are done in kind of a much more focused way, not just change for change, but how do you develop something that has particular value? How do you think about your audiences differently? How do you, what kind of resources do you need? So kind of all that aspects of what would go into a business model, but applied to journalism, either journalism as a startup or journalism as an enhancement to something that a current news organization might be doing. So I teach a class in that. I have a study that I'm presenting later this summer at the Association for Education in Journalism and Mass Communication, which is a conference that will be in DC this year, on how students think about it's a co-authored paper with Marcel Grossma at Groningen, how students think about those two concepts of innovation and entrepreneurship, and it turns out they think about them in some ways differently. So entrepreneurship they think about much more in business terms, and innovation is more about change and kind of more gee-whizzy kinds of things, if you can say it that way. But in both cases, they're very much thinking in terms of technology. The other study that I'm working on, and I'll be presenting at a different conference, is fact checkers. I'm actually very interested in fact checkers also as an innovative form of journalism. I think it's very interesting. Lucas Graves does some really great work on this. He's kind of the main guy and knows an awful lot about the fact checkers, and some other people, Mark Coddington, some other people who are here at this conference are looking at that too. But I'm actually interested in fact checkers as entrepreneurs and as intrapreneurs, which is kind of a different form of journalism within a news organization. So how they're drawing on journalistic norms, but doing it in a different kind of way, presenting the information in a different way. But also, again, how they think about their audiences. Who's the audience for a fact checker? They will tell you, at least I found in my earlier study, that they want their audience to be everyone. It's a very civically minded approach to journalism. People need the truth. Watchdog role. Politicians or people in power need to be held accountable. So it's a very civically minded concept. And so they think about their audience as being everyone, being citizens in a democracy. But in fact, when you say, well, who's really reading you? Well, who's really reading you is the politicians, because they want to know if they've been called out, or their opponent, even better, if their opponent has been called out, other journalists, and educators to some extent. So it's kind of an elite audience. I have some interviews with fact checkers. I now need to get more data, so probably some kind of a survey, some kind of a questionnaire, so I can get, because fact checkers is expanding all over the world. There's now it's probably about 150 around the world. The best known ones are in the US, but actually some of the more interesting ones are in other countries. So a lot in Western Europe, so in other democratic societies, but also quite a lot in societies that are perhaps have more troubled democracies, or aren't different relationships between the media and those in power. And one of the interesting things that came out in the interview that I want to look at a little bit more is that the fact checkers actually see themselves, the independent ones, not just as holding the powerful to account, but in some ways as a corrective for what they feel that the media organizations, media journalists are not doing well enough.